Hey all, welcome back to the channel. This is Junior Scientist and we were discussing about various lectures and we have just started a series and also for biology, chemistry, biochemistry. For biology, it is the second lecture and gradually we will proceed with the different series. So in today's discussion, we are going to compare some certain things. There is a general difference between the plant and animal cells. We have just taken concepts, but gradually, with every step by step, we will learn about the various concepts. So in today's discussion, we are having something which is called as an organelle, that is basically called as cytoplasm. Basically, cytoplasm is something that is an organelle which is acting as uh, it is acting as a tray. It is acting just like water in a pond, and a few fishes, a few living creatures are running inside there. So basically, its role is to provide nourishment to stability to a cell. So simply, it is a jelly-like particle and an organelle. And basically, it is a jelly-like material whose role is to provide support to the other organelles. Where it is found, it is located inside a cell, and obviously it is covered by a membrane. So in case of the animal cell, it is protected by a plasma membrane or the cell membrane. Next is, what is its function? Its function is to contain the cell organelles, just like mitochondria, whose role is to provide ATP or energy to the cell. Because how does ATP provide energy to the cell? Just for the sake of concept, that ATP is basically adenosine triphosphate. Whenever one phosphate is released, just like in this case, it contains three phosphate attached to the adenosine molecule. Now, whenever one phosphate atom breaks down and it just releases top, it releases an energy molecule. So remember that whenever one phosphate gets separated, it produces solid energy. Also, whenever it further breaks down and simplifies, it converts that stuff into the adenosine monophosphate, that is AMP, and it provides cells with another energy molecule. So that is how it provides cells with the energy. Next is the case for the nucleus, that is site of the chemical reaction. So basically, a nucleus could be termed as brain of a cell. How and why? Because it guides cell for the various activities. Now it will guide cell whenever the certain division is required, whenever cell needs to communicate, whenever certain protein information is required, whenever to stop it. So all the activities engaged the present or also like all the activities receive messages from the nucleus. Next is the case cell membrane. Now cell membrane is also called this plasma membrane. Remember that is a major difference between the plant and animal cell. What's happening in the plant cell is a double membrane layer material that is basically protected by a cell wall, but in case of the animal cell, it is protected by a membrane which is termed as plasma or the cell membrane. Remember that amazing fact about it is that it is highly permeable. What do you mean by this thing is that it is highly selective. It is not allowing anything to enter or leave into it. So basically, it is going to act as a scanner for the cell. So cell will see it and it will decide whether cell needs any ions into it, does it need any more potassium or maybe sodium into it. Remember that there are certain gates in that layer. Basically, you can call them as channel. So it is decided by this membrane whether a material should enter into the cell or not. So you could simply say that it is a jelly-like material. It is basically an a membrane which is extremely permeable. While when it comes to the cytoplasm, it was we just compare it to the water on the pond. Next is the case. Basically, what is its role and where it is existed in. So cell membrane role is to provide protection to the cell. So if let's say this is your cell, now it is guided or protected by a layer which is called as plasma membrane. So basically this is the plasma membrane, and it have to decide whether a material should enter into it or should something leave it or not. Okay. Next in the case is like it prevents the cell content from entering or escaping the cell. Basically, its role is to maintain entry. Basically, it's acting as a scanner. Next is the case it is called as nucleus. It won't be a big issue if you term it as the brain of a cell, because it is going to decide whether a cell should multiply or not. It also provides cell with the template so that they could combine with each with another template, and they could make up a makeup, and that is makeup for different gene formation or protein formation. That is a detailed discussion, but we will see it later on. Now, for its general idea, you could say that it could be in circular, it could be in oval structured, containing DNA in the form of the chromosomes. Now, for the concept of the chromosomes, remember that it is just like a crossed structure. What is its role? Its role is that you got one cross from your parent cell, and the cell and the offspring have one of its own cell. So basically, an offspring contains one chromosome of its own, and one is donated by the parent. And that one side is responsible for the transformation of different activities from parents to their offsprings. Its location is just like other organelles. It is present inside the cytoplasm. Also, what is its role? Its role is to control the cell division. It controls the cell development, and also it controls the cell activities. Remember that when it comes to the cell division, it needs a message, it needs a makeup, so it needs some instructions. Its role of nucleus is to provide it with such instructions in the genes. Next is the case for the plant cells. The first major thing it contains into it is the plant cell wall. It is a tough, non-living layer which is made up of the cellulose. Remember that this cellulose or that layer or that material make distinction between the cell wall of plants and other creatures, just like the fungi. In case of fungi, the outermost layer is made up of the chitin, while in this case it is made up of the cellulose. It is present around the outside of the plant cell, and its role is to protect the plant cell. Why and how? But you should be clear with the one thing, like the cell wall is not that highly active or selective in comparison to the cell membrane. It's not that efficient. It's just basically its role is to protect the cell from the different outside temperature or from the microorganisms attacks, but it is not that best as the like permeability or selectivity is related to the cell membrane. Next is the case is present outside the plant cell. It have to prevent plant cell from bursting if it allows specific level or pressure of water and salts to pass through it. So basically, it will allow different pathways, but again, it is not that selective. For selectivity, cells have to stay dependent on the cell membrane. Next is the case for the vacuole. Now, vacuole is what when the cells are immature, when they are at the growth level, they contain multiple vacuoles among them. Now, those multiple smaller vacuoles are responsible for having water or like maintaining salts and sugar concentrations. But when the cells attain the maturity, the multiple smaller vacuoles combine with each other, and they took up to a shape which is called as one huge vacuole. Now, what is their role and why is the plant cell needs vacuole? Plants contain salts and sugars, and their role is to help and to keep the plant cells. And basically, they save salts and sugar among them, and their role is to feed the plant cells when they need their feed. Next is obviously chloroplast. Chloroplast is an organelle which contain a pigment which is called as chlorophyll. Now, chlorophyll is responsible for providing green color to the plant. When chlorophyll is not present or when a cell lacks chlorophyll, it is provided with other pigments, and the responsibility of those pigments is to provide cells with the variable color, maybe green color, not green color, sorry, maybe the green color is present, it is gifted by the chlorophyll. But if the plant cells or plant leaves contain other color, just like red, blue, or something, so it is donated by the plant by the pigment, any other pigment, but specifically the green pigment is donated by the chlorophyll. Now, the chlorophyll is responsible for trapping the light energy for the photosynthesis. What do you mean by this scenario is that they will be receiving sunlight. Upon receiving sunlight, they are going to make a combination of the carbon dioxide plus water plus sunlight, and they will convert it into the glucose molecule which will plants use it for the sake of energy production. They will save it for to use them later on. Now there is another concept. Simply, the gas which is called as carbon dioxide, we really don't need them in an excessive concentration, because they will cause something which is called as greenhouse effect. Usually it is an environmental pollution which will be elevating the atmospheric temperature. So simply we don't need them because it is simply causing the greenhouse effect, elevation of Earth's temperature, also interrupting with the human health. So it is the gift of nature, like the plants inhale carbon dioxide, but we don't need, and they return us with oxygen what we need. So that is why we are asked to grow up more and more trees. Okay. So simply, that's it for today's lecture. Grew up more trees to promote the oxygen formation. Now, as per summary, we have learned the three differences between the plants and animal cell. In the plant cell, in the animal, both the cells contain cytoplasm, but the difference lies in the outermost layer in the animal cell is the cell membrane. But when it comes to the plant cell, they are the double membrane. They contain cell wall. The difference number two is that the cell membrane is highly selective, while in case of the cell wall, it is not that highly selective. Next is for the vacuole. Human cells don't have vacuole. Even animal cells don't have many vacuoles. Also, we have learned in case of the plant cell, they when the plant cell immature, they contain multiple smaller vacuoles in them, but when they got mature, they grew up, they fused up all the small vacuoles, and they ended up with the one bigger vacuole. Next is the case, we don't have any chloroplasts because plants don't need them. Obviously we don't want green color to grow up onto our skin. So, while any other plant which lack chlorophyll or which lack chlorophyll will have some any other color except that the green. So simply, green color or the chlorophyll is specific for each other. If something have chlorophyll, the leaf will have the green color. But if they don't have any chlorophyll, they contain any other pigment. In that case, their leaf won't be of the green color. So that's it for today. See you next time. So if you have any query, confusion, you can email us, and I hope we will be available for you to reply on. So also subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and also if you want us to do so, solve your assignments, if you want us to teach we lecture you, we have some sort of LinkedIn account which will share you with later on, but also you can communicate us onto the email. So thank you. That's it for today. See you next time. Good luck.